We're gonna do this one last mic check for Mary Green because it's Mary Green and she gets her own special mic checks. So, and we're done.
Plenty of space. Slide on in.
All right, breaking news now into the News 19 Information Center. We are getting ready for yet another press conference and an update on Hurricane Helene and what the status is of the cleanup in our state. The governor's press conference was actually supposed to start about 20 minutes ago, a little delayed today at 2:50, but again, hoping to hear from Dominion Energy, Duke, our electric cooperatives, as well as SCDOT on when they think the power will get turned back on for all the residents. I think we're going to start off with a prayer.
Lord, I have a mantra today that I've been sharing with people, and it's from Winston Churchill. He said, when you're going through hell, keep going. And South Carolina has once again been tested, and as always, South Carolina will be resilient. We're a state with a rich history of banding together when life gets difficult. We're resolute, we're strong, we're proud, and we will keep going. We are South Carolina. So let's pray. Lord, shine down upon us, unite us in purpose, be with us in helping others, and watch over those who are hurting and suffering. Bring healing upon them. Give us strength to keep going. We pray this in your name, Lord. Amen.
Thank you very much. Well, here's some numbers to start with. As you will recall, on Friday, 3 million power customers in the state. On Friday, we were at outages 1,300,000. On Saturday, it had gone down to 1,200,000. On Sunday, it was 904,209. That's on Sunday. On Monday, it was 745,593, 745,593, and today, a little while ago, it was 629,979. Again, 629,979, and by now, I presume with all the people that we have out there working, it's probably a lot less than that now. But we're making progress. Again, we have the whole team on the field, and it's growing every day. I want to take a moment and sadly announce that we have, as of now, 36 confirmed deaths as a result of the storm. It's going up, and there'll likely be more. We hope not. To compare with Hugo in 1988, there were 35 deaths. That, of course, hit the coast real hard. Comparison, North Carolina, I believe there they have 600 people still missing and over 100 known deaths from the storm. So this has really hit our region hard. The declaration, our state has enjoyed success in getting our declarations accepted by the federal government, and we've asked for an expedited declaration this time. And as you know, it was approved, and that is based on information that we receive from the counties and can send in to get approved. And as you know, they're for public assistance. This is not the private assistance that the citizens do for themselves directly with FEMA in those counties that have been so designated by FEMA, but the public assistance that goes to the public institutions, towns, cities, state government structures. And we originally received, as you know, the okay for these counties: Aiken, Anderson, Bamberg, Barnwell, Cherokee, Greenville, Greenwood, Newberry, Oconee, Pickens, Saluda, and Spartanburg. So we were successful in receiving that on an emergency expedited basis, and that was very, very good. But we are now working to receive the information. We're awaiting information from other counties as well, and we anticipate that FEMA will be able to include a number of them soon. We hope, we anticipate. We're receiving information and sending it in, and those are as follows: Allendale, Abbeville, Edgefield, Lawrence, McCormick, Richland, and Union. I'll repeat that: Allendale, Abbeville, Edgefield, Lawrence, McCormick, Richland. and Union. And we believe we will have success once we have enough information received to where we can send that in, but we're anticipating success. We again have the entire team on the line now. The numbers are enormous for those that are participating in the effort. The National Guard now has 973 soldiers out on duty. We have 18 chainsaw teams out there. We have more coming from Florida and from Michigan and Virginia. They're arriving, and we're building. And so things are getting better, but we're not out of the woods yet. There's still a lot of power lines down, and as you know, in this storm has knocked down trees, which knocked down power lines, which caused everything that runs on electricity to stop. And we still have this choke point. Although we're getting more and more chainsaw crews, we still have to be careful. The companies have to be careful, and those that they get to assist have to be careful. We can't remove the debris, the trees off of the power lines until we get the power lines turned off. So that is a choke. That's something that's a little different from ice storms and other things that we've had. We have telephone poles down. In an ice storm, usually don't get that. But so that is the thing that's hindering. But we're working hard to work through that. And with this team, we've got a magnificent team, and you'll hear from some of them right now. We're looking for great success. The Congaree River, we're told, has crested, but there's downstream there are some rivers that have not crested. So we would ask everybody to be on the lookout from their local sources, particularly, as to when and where to expect those floodings. But there'll going to be some more flooding. We don't think it'll be anything that we haven't seen before, but we're going to have some pretty good flooding. So be sure to check for your local information on that, and also we'll be providing what we have. Andrew Phillips, Chief of Preparedness, South Carolina Emergency Management Division.
Thank you, Governor. SCMD continues to coordinate with SCD&R flood mitigation program and National Weather Service hydrologists ongoing the river flooding the governor just mentioned. Yes, sir. Yes, sir. Gotcha. Most of the rivers in the western half of the state are still elevated, but they are starting to go down. As the governor mentioned, some of the ones we talked about in the press conference yesterday, the Congaree River in Columbia, that did crest yesterday late morning into the early afternoon hours and has fallen about 10 feet since then. It's still elevated, but it is now in minor flood stage. And then in Kershaw County, the Wateree River, that continues to go down as well, so that is now into moderate flood stage. But as the governor mentioned, we do have some rivers across the eastern portion of the state which continue to rise. So those are the ones we're looking at as the water continues to move downstream. But I do want to emphasize the impacts from this river flooding will be mainly limited to the flood-prone areas along the river. Impacts are not currently expected outside of these areas, even though these rivers continue to rise. So some of those rivers are the PD River is forecast to arrive into moderate flood stage on Wednesday, so tomorrow. Santee River near Jamestown, that's along the Georgetown, Williamsburg, Berkeley County area, is forecast to rise into major flood stage on Thursday or Friday. We continue to coordinate with emergency management officials in that area, and they are closely monitoring the forecast as well along the Santee River. Continue to coordinate with Santee Cooper as well, and they will be conducting public messaging to those that could potentially be impacted by this river flooding. And they issue alerts to communities that are along the river about the potential for this. So that is what we are encouraging. We're urging everyone along these rivers to listen to messages from local officials. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Andrew Bateman, Office of Regulatory Staff.
Thank you, Governor McMaster. Andrew Bateman, South Carolina Office of Regulatory Staff. We continue to work with utilities and our agency partners in an effort to restore power across the state. As Governor McMaster mentioned earlier in the press conference, outages do continue to drop. Briefly, I'll detail where the state lies and where the individual utilities lie currently. As Governor McMaster mentioned, the total for South Carolina as of a few hours ago, so he mentioned it has undoubtedly gone down since then by some degree, was 629,979. The top three counties are Greenville County at 165,137, Spartanburg County at $135,951, and Aiken County at $62,316. Dominion stands currently at about $75,000, Duke at about $395,000, and the cooperatives at about $148,000. Thank you, Mr. Governor.
Thanks, sir. Kim Stinson, South Carolina Emergency Management Division.
Thank you, sir. Kim Stinson, State EMD. The State Emergency Operations Center remains at operating condition 1, which is our highest readiness state. The priorities really haven't changed for us. Continuing maintaining communications, clearing roadways, power restoration, shelter operations, and food and water distribution. We currently have 11 of our personnel deployed to 11 counties in the most impacted areas to assist local authorities in responding to this event. County governments, the operational focus in those particular areas, in those counties, similar to ours, is power restoration, road clearing operations, sheltering, and food and water distribution. Damage assessment is ongoing in many counties, but we do have some updated information. On the residential side, 18 counties are reporting over 1,500 damaged homes, of which 66 are destroyed and 517 with major damage. Public assistance costs, that's the infrastructure damage and emergency protective measures, are being reported by 36 counties for a total of $16 million. And both of those are subject to change here as we move forward. And they went up significantly since yesterday. County governments are closed in 8 counties with 1 county on delay today, and that's trending down, which is a good sign. In the logistics area, we have action 599 requests, of which 241 have been completed and 358 are in progress. The most requests have been for food, water, fuel, and chainsaws. And so far, we have distributed 274,000 meals, 281,000 liters of water, and 3,500 tarps. On the federal side, as the governor just spoke to, is that we've got a major push to rapidly add those counties that he identified on the individual assistance and infrastructure repair and restoration reimbursements. And there may be more added as we move forward, but we're working with FEMA and then also gathering additional information so we have sufficient information to add those counties to the federal declaration. A reminder for everybody to stay informed and up to date using reliable sources. Misinformation is dangerous, and even if it's well-intentioned. So please rely on official channels such as SCEMD and your local emergency management offices for accurate information. And residents here in South Carolina who have questions can call our state's public information phone system, our Hurricane Helene hotline at 1-866-246-0133. Thank you, sir.
Thank you. Brigadier General Robert Stilwell, National Guard.
Thank you, Governor. Ladies and gentlemen, good afternoon. Currently committed to the response, we have 894 Army National Guardsmen. We have 34 Air National Guardsmen and 35 State Guardsmen for a total of 963 service members responding to the event. We're continuing to build capacity. For example, we have a Florida National Guard engineer unit that is coming into our state today to assist our engineering effort in the impacted counties. We stand ready to ask for additional assistance from other states as necessary. Currently, in the impacted areas, we're assisting county authorities with debris removal, with chainsaw teams, and with general purpose troops. We're continuing to assist North Carolina with helicopter rescue missions in the affected areas. Ladies and gentlemen, the South Carolina National Guard is on duty, on station, and stands ready to support our friends, our neighbors, and our families. Thank you very much.
Question, we have
Yes, sir.
2 helicopter rescue units in North Carolina, but we have 2 here. And we have all we need.
Yes,
Is that
sir.
right?
Absolutely, sir. We have retained helicopter aquatic rescue teams in South Carolina that can respond to any of the issues that we have. We can also remission and retask those units that are assisting North Carolina.
Okay.
Yes, sir.
Thank you, Joe.
Yes, sir.
Secretary Justin Powell, Department of Transportation.
Thank you, Governor. Justin Powell, Secretary of Transportation. SCDOT continues its 24-hour operations in response to Hurricane Helene. We have been working to restore mobility to the western half of South Carolina. We've supplemented our crews in the affected area with 87 additional crews that continue to make progress in removing trees and reopening roads. I got the opportunity this morning to visit operations in Edgefield and McCormick County. Our team spirits are high, and our crews continue to work tirelessly to help get South Carolina moving again. At present, we have 456 routes closed across the state. That is down from 480 yesterday. As the governor mentioned, power line entanglements remain the single biggest obstacle to reopening roadways. We've started coordination efforts with the utility companies that are expediting our shared mission of getting the power back on and the roads reopened. Power crews and DOT crews are now working side by side to get power restored and roads reopened at the same time. As we move trees out of the roadway, you may notice piles of debris and trees on there. As soon as the network is restored, we've gotten out of the power pack on, we'll work to start cleaning up that storm debris. I recognize this storm has brought incredible impacts across South Carolina, and I want you to know that SCDOT is not slowing down and that we are committed to getting South Carolina moving again. Thank you, Governor.
Thanks, sir. Director Robert Woods, Department of Public Safety.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon. Robert Woods, Director of South Carolina Department of Public Safety. I'll start with our calls for service. Typically for the Department of Public Safety, our calls for service are vehicle collisions, assist motorists, blocked roadways, especially during a situation like this. On Sunday, we had 569 total calls for service. On Monday, we had 784. Despite that uptick, you'll generally see that type of increase from a Sunday to a Monday from a weekend to a work day. So that's not unusual, and it's still within what we would consider to be our historic averages. So since our calls for service have returned essentially to normal, that allows us to free up personnel to assist SLED with law enforcement high visibility patrols, as well as other specific security missions. With that said, I'll just give you an idea as to the numbers of personnel that we have assigned today and tonight. This afternoon, we have 205 Highway Patrol and State Transport Police troopers and officers who are working. 166 of those are in Aiken and through the upstate, through the impacted area. 33 of those are specifically detailed. Of those 166, 33 of those are specifically detailed to assist SLED with security missions. Tonight, we will have 102 personnel who will be working, and 62 of those will be in the upstate area, and 3 of those personnel will be specifically tasked to SLED. Governor, that's all I have. Thank you.
Thank you. Chief Mark Keel, SLED.
Thank you, Governor. Mark Keel, SLED Chief, ESF 13, SLED, DNR, Triple P, South Carolina Department of Corrections, and DPS Highway Patrol are currently providing 191 agents, officers, and troopers to support local sheriffs and police chiefs with a variety of security-related missions within the 19 counties and 4 cities. Those counties are Aiken, Allendale, Anderson, Bamberg, Barnwell, Cherokee, Edgefield, Greenville, Greenwood, Hampton, Lawrence, Lexington, McCormick, Newberry, Oconee, Pickens, Saluda, Union, and Spartanburg, and the cities of Greenwood, North Augusta, Pacolet, and the city of Union. These officers, troopers, agents are conducting roving patrols in those counties at gas stations, businesses, residences, also in those rural areas where there is no power, to make sure that we have an increased law enforcement presence in order to maintain order and public safety. Assisting with security at food drops, distribution locations, points of distribution to assist with law enforcement protective measures as citizens come to get those items at those points of distribution. We're currently also tasked with aviation requests for disaster assessment both in Pickens County and Greenville County. We flew missions there yesterday, and we're in those counties again today, flying to make sure that that disaster assessment flights are completed. In addition, we have law enforcement from other agencies, Myrtle Beach PD, Mount Pleasant PD, Conway PD, and Sumter PD, that are also assisting our state partners. That's all I have at this time, Governor.
Thank you, Chief. Director Emily Farr.
Thank you, sir. Emily Farr with the Department of Labor Licensing and Regulation. Give an update on the state's search and rescue efforts and also have a few important safety messages. First, in response to requests from the counties, LLR State Fire Division is continuing to support missions with urban search and rescue teams and fire department resources through firefighter mobilization. As of today, we now have 297 personnel assigned to mission requests. We also have both FEMA urban search and rescue teams that arrived from California that are now here in South Carolina working on missions today as well. I do want to take just a moment to thank all of our local emergency responders, our search and rescue teams, and our firefighters, particularly those also that are providing those highly technical rescue missions in partnership with the National Guard on the helicopter aquatic rescue team missions. All of them are not only responding to their own affected communities, but they are providing and sending resources from across the state to provide additional support to these communities. So to all of them, I want to express that your efforts don't go unnoticed, and we greatly appreciate everything you are doing to support the state's mission. Just a couple safety notes. Two I mentioned yesterday on generator safety notes. We are getting reports from our teams that are out in the field that they are encountering citizens who are running generators in their homes. This is extremely dangerous. Must emphasize that generators should not be run inside your home. You should keep them at least 20 feet from doors, windows, and vent openings. That's 20 feet away from them. And never use them inside your attached garage either. With candle safety, if you decide to use candles, try to check your smoke alarms prior to any candle use. Consider using flashlights or battery-operated flameless candles if you can. But if you are using candles, make sure they're on a flat surface and never left unattended. Finally, just a note on tree trimming safety using chainsaws. I know many of us are out there working to try to remove debris. Of course, it's always better to get the power companies, the National Guard, the professionals that are out there to remove those trees. But if you do decide to do so, I can't emphasize enough how important it is to be careful and to assume that the power lines are energized that might be entangled in those trees. Perform a hazard assessment before you start any kind of work, and try to wear the right personal protective equipment, safety gear, eyeglasses, gloves, other sort of safety equipment like that. More information about those safety tips can be found at OSHA.gov. There are fact sheets there that can help out with ensuring proper safety. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, ma'am. Director Mike Leach, Department of Social Services.
Thank you, Governor. Mike Leach, DSS. As of 2 p.m. today, South Carolina currently has 15 shelters open, 9 general population shelters, and 6 medical needs shelters open across the state, supporting 160 general population shelterees and 73 medically need shelterees. We continue to work with the Department of Public Health with the operation of sites, so that's a total of 233 folks that are utilizing the shelter services at this point in time. The mass feeding task force efforts are supplementing points of distribution operations. Their MREs and water have been delivered to the following counties: Aiken, Allendale, Cherokee, Edgefield, Greenville, McCormick, Newberry, Lawrence, Oconee, Pickens, Saluda, and Spartanburg. Currently, the Salvation Army is operating their canteens in areas in Aiken, Edgefield, and Barnwell counties, and Saluda County as well. The Southern Baptist Disaster Relief are currently mobilizing their feeding teams to open kitchens in Cherokee, Spartanburg, and Aiken counties, and they are currently operating a quick response unit providing 1,000 meals a day in Greenwood and Lawrence County. The state also put in a federal request for an additional 15,000 shelf-stable meals and water to be delivered to Aiken County and dispersed regionally after that. And the American Red Cross is working on a fleet of emergency response vehicles to help distribute food to communities with the greatest needs. That's all I have.
Good question. Are we meeting the needs that are being presented to us?
Yes, sir. The capacity, we have plenty of capacity for folks if they need shelter operations. We're currently seeing folks who may need feeding services, and so they're coming in just for that, may need charging stations, be able to charge their phones, and we need folks who are oxygen dependent. We're able to serve those in those areas.
Okay. Thank you very much. Director Edward Simmer, Department of Public Health.
Thank you, Governor. Good afternoon, everyone. Dr. Ed Simmer, South Carolina Department of Public Health. We're focusing, as before, on our healthcare facilities and also making sure people's medical needs are met. All of our hospitals across the state have had power restored and are fully functional. That's very good news. We continue to see more and more of our other medical facilities like nursing homes and assisted living facilities get their power restored. The ones who are still on generator power do have adequate fuel, they have enough food, and we're checking with them every day to make sure their needs are being met. But right now, all of the patients in our facilities across the state are being well cared for. From a medical needs standpoint, as Director Leach mentioned, we have a number of medical needs shelters open across the upstate. If you have medical equipment that requires electricity and your power is out, we can probably help you. You can come to a medical needs shelter, plug your equipment in, and use it. The number to get to a medical needs shelter is 1-855-472-3432. Again, 1-855-472-3432. They will assess your needs and help you find the right shelter for you. Also, I would note that we have a lot of people who use medical oxygen and have been having trouble getting oxygen. With partnership with FEMA, which we appreciate, we now have over 1,400 oxygen canisters that we have gotten to the upstate. We are distributing those to each of the counties, and if you visit our website at dph.sc.gov, you'll see a list of counties and the contact in each of those counties where you can call to obtain those medical oxygen bottles so your supply does not run out. We also have some oxygen generators that you plug in and it makes oxygen. Again, working with FEMA, and those are available as well. If you have other medical needs, certainly try your provider first, but if your provider is not available, let us know that, and we will certainly try to assist. Finally, just a couple other safety points following up with what Director Farr had to say. Be careful. There's a lot of insects, mosquitoes are coming up. There's a lot of ticks now. Certainly encourage folks to wear long sleeves, wear long pants, tuck your pants into your shoes or boots if you're working outside. Certainly a good insect repellent like DEET, D-E-E-T, can be very effective. Also, if you put permethrin on your clothes, you shouldn't put it on your skin, but if you use permethrin on your clothes, that can be very effective at keeping the ticks and mosquitoes away. With that, Governor, I do have one more thing, I'm sorry. Also, for those who are in the Women, Infant, and Children's Food Program, the Nutritional Supplement Program, we are going to be doing waivers for the educational requirements, so it's basically extending people out 30 days, and we're moving that program to entirely remote operations in those areas for now, so you won't have to go to a health department to get your WIC benefits, and we will keep that going for as long as we need to until everyone has access. With that, Governor, that's all I have. Thank you, sir.
What is permethrin?
Oh, yes, sir. Permethrin. Permethrin, P-E-R-M-E-T-H-R-I-N, sir, is a chemical that you can spray on your clothes, and it is very, very effective at repelling pretty much all kinds of insects, but especially ticks and mosquitoes.
Thank you.
Yes, sir.
Director Myra Reese, Department of Environmental Services.
Thank you, Governor, and good afternoon, everyone. Myra Reese, Department of Environmental Services. The team at Department of Environmental Services continues to support the state's effort 24/7. We wanted to provide an update in 3 areas today, beginning with dam safety. There's no change with reports of significant issues with our state-regulated dams. We're continuing to make progress with those post-storm assessments. in areas that received the most significant rainfall. As of today, we have assessed the condition of 149 dams. 61 were conducted by our staff, and then 88 were self-reports by dam owners. And we want to really thank our dam owners for continuing to be very vigilant in providing that assessment report back to us. I do want to say that we have noticed in our assessments that we've noticed some clogged spillways, and we just want to continue to encourage those dam owners to be paying close attention to those types of issues and to avoid any issues because of that. Second is drinking water, and beginning with public drinking water, we continue, there are no issues or concerns with continuity of operations or continued supply of public drinking water consumers. We're working very closely, with our power utilities and with our water utilities, matching those up. And we feel very confident that those systems that are on generator power are receiving the fuel that they need, and that we will continue to work them as permanent power is established. I also want to just not to forget the many citizens in South Carolina that rely on private wells, and just provide this number again. If you have any concerns or if we could assist you in any way, don't hesitate to reach out to our private well hotline at 1-888-761-5989. That's 1-888-761-5989. And then finally, I just wanted to mention debris management strategy. I think, as we continue and the counties continue to get out there and assess the damages, we're probably going to see volumes of debris that maybe we've never anticipated before, and that's why it's so important for us to have a good state strategy as far as debris management. And I just want to publicly thank all of our many partners. You've already heard from some of, like the Guard and so many folks that are helping collect this debris. But then the debris's got to go somewhere once it's collected. And it's going to be very important for us to manage it appropriately. We're working very closely with our county partners who are identifying staging areas that we can bring the collected materials. And then we need to think about where that material is going to go. And we have businesses across the state that are really stepping up, being part of this solution with us. We have some businesses that have boilers that can use chips as fuel in their boilers, and they are stepping up to offer that assistance. We also have businesses that have wood chippers, equipment like that, and also recyclers that produce landscaping mulch. So all of these folks are stepping up and helping our state come up with a very good debris management strategy, and we greatly appreciate that. Thank you.
Thank you. Director Marcia Adams, South Carolina Department of Administration.
Yes, thank you, Governor. Good afternoon, Marcia Adams, Department of Administration. I just want to say thank you to all of the citizens across the state who have volunteered to help and volunteered to make donations. We continue to work with the counties to determine their immediate needs for donated goods and volunteers. And as I've mentioned before, donated goods require transportation and warehousing. So oftentimes the most effective offer to meet those immediate needs are monetary donations. Charitable organizations assisting South Carolina victims can buy the exact items needed for those victims. On the SCEMD website at scemd.org/recovery/volunteer and donate is a list of all of the organizations who are accepting monetary donations of goods or food. For people interested in volunteering, please visit that website also, and it has a link to volunteersc.org to register, managed by the United Way. Many of these volunteer opportunities do require some training, and we want people to be safe during their response and recovery operations. We do ask volunteers not to self-deploy, as unexpectedly showing up will create an additional burden for the first responders. As public officials and disaster relief organizations identify the specific needs, they will be contacted. Again, I just want to say thank you so much for everything that the citizens of the state are doing to help each other. Thank you.
Thank you, ma'am. Chief Ben Duncan, Office of Resilience.
Thank you, Governor. Ben Duncan, Chief Resilience Officer, South Carolina Office of Resilience. We continue to coordinate with EMD with our recovery efforts and our mitigation efforts. We are lending personnel to EMD to help with disaster assessments. In the recovery efforts, we are well prepared with case management. We have case managers who are ready to fill in as soon as the recovery centers are open to assist people with all needs. It could be food, clothing, housing, whatever the need may be. We are there to assist them. We have a long record with recovery and long-term recovery. We've repaired from the previous storms more than 3,454 homes. This is a fantastic recovery effort that we have in place. We have the talent and people ready to move forward with it. Lastly, we would like to let you know that if there are any donations that need to be made, that they could be made through 1SC Fund. They have a history of assisting disaster victims from 2015 flood, Hurricane Matthew of 2016, and Hurricane Florence of 2018. Central Carolina Community Foundation is the parent of the SC1. Their telephone number is 803-254-5601. Again, that's 803-254-5601. And they have assisted more than 2,000 individuals in the previous storms that we've had. Thank you, Governor.
Thank you, Ben Duncan. Just a couple of things to finish up with. You may want to know these numbers from Dominion, Duke, and the co-ops that are going down with outages. Yesterday, Dominion had 99,677. Today, they're down to 75,734. Duke yesterday was at 468,647. That's 468,647. Today they're down to 395,795. And yesterday the co-ops were at 177,269. And today they're down to 148,918. So you can see they're dropping. Went from 745,593 yesterday to 629,979, and they're still going down right now as we speak. One final note, because of what we're seeing with these tragic deaths with trees falling on houses, falling on vehicles, people getting washed off the road, people trying to get out of the way of something in the road and running off the road. We know we don't want to have any more tragedies. So we just urge everyone to remember a few things. One, where the rivers are going to be flooding, they haven't crested yet. Be prepared for that water. And also, as the water goes up in places, some of the animals that are in those dry places look for dry places to go, so you might encounter some animals. Be careful. Also, the generators in homes or near homes and garages, we seem to always have deaths associated with those. Also, of course, electric shock. Don't go close to any wire. Every wire you see on the ground is fully charged and flowing with electricity, so stay away. Also, candles. We've had candle deaths with fires in homes. So far, I don't think we've had any deaths from bad food or bad water, but as the refrigerators are not working, we hope that people will throw the bad food away. Don't test it. Don't ever drive through ponded water on a road. You may know the road, you may think this only a foot thick, but it may be washed out. It might be a hole there. There's no telling what could happen. And also, again, don't let this be the first time you use a chainsaw. Let the experts use those things because they can hurt you. And also be careful about all the debris that you've heard is going to be on the side of the road for weeks. Once we get it out and get all power started back. Then we'll start removing all of that debris, but it's gonna be on the side of the road. Some of it may shift, fall in the road. So day or night, be careful for debris that may be in your way. With that, are there any questions?
Governor, the White House announced today that President Biden would be coming through the Carolinas tomorrow. Didn't really offer a whole lot of details about who he will be meeting in South Carolina or where exactly he will go. Do you plan to meet with the president? Can you offer any other information about that visit?
Well, I know they're coming out. They ought to be the ones to announce all of that. I plan on being in the upstate some tomorrow. So I have no announcement to make.
Okay. Would you like to meet the president tomorrow to discuss the
I've met the
ongoing?
president many times before.
Well, let me ask it this way. As of today, what has been the ongoing kind of federal assistance for South Carolina?
It's been superb. I finally was able to speak to the president yesterday afternoon after he missed me and I missed him leaving. He left a voicemail, I left a voicemail. So we finally connected yesterday afternoon. He said that whatever we need to let him know, and we're doing that. Also, Secretary Buttigieg called yesterday and said the same thing, and also Deanie Criswell for FEMA has also called. So, and a number of the governors have called. So we're getting assistance, and we're asking for everything we need. And fortunately, we have a great team that's got a lot of experience and a lot of vision, and they're able to make full use of all these assets.
Governor, follow up. Former President Trump was critical of President Biden, saying he's not sending aid to Republican areas. Are those comments helpful from the former president? Should he be weighing in on this?
Those are questions for President Biden and President Trump.
I have a question for Director Stenson. If you could, is there a way to kind of talk about, you mentioned the $16 million figure as far as damage goes and that's going to go higher. Is there a way to provide somewhat of a breakdown of where some of that money is coming from, or exactly what damage you're talking about as far as the $16 million?
Well, it's a variety of areas. It could be emergency protective measures related to the event. Certainly all the food that's been distributed, that sort of thing. There is some infrastructure damage out there on some of the roads and bridges, and so that'll all be included in there. And we've got, the information we have right now is certainly not final by any amount. So,
do you have a guess of what the total may be in the end?
I'm reluctant to do that, but I'm pretty sure it's going to be higher than the 16 million that we have right now.
Do you have any update on cell tower outages and what might be happening with those? Some people in the upstate were saying they're still experiencing difficulty with connectivity.
Yes. Yesterday, statewide cell outages across the state was 13%. Today, it's 9%. And someone asked about towers yesterday. That represents 650 towers out of a total of 7,500. And the most affected counties are Abbeville, McCormick, and Lawrence, and they're working on that.
On those, is it all the carriers are affected, or is there one carrier that's affected more than others?
I'd have to get you that information. I'm not sure, but I think all carriers have some of outages. But I can get you the information by carrier.
Any indication, is it power related, or is it like telco infrastructure related? And will they be kind of reassessing those sites in the future to see if backup generators fail, that type of thing?
I'm not sure. I know some is power and some is the infrastructure. I'll have to get you that information, and I'm sure after this storm they will be reassessing just to make sure that if there's any lessons learned, they can put those into action.
I have a question about the dam. Are the privately owned dam owners qualified to capable enough to inspect some of the integrity of the dams as certified engineers?
Our dam owners, and certainly the ones that even have some of the smaller dams that are not regulated by the state, many of the things that you look for is, number one, you've got to know if you were to have a breach of that dam, who would be impacted. So those smaller dams, basically, it will just be the dam owner's property, okay? So it's really an investment that he's protecting. And what, if I was a private well owner, a smaller impoundment, I would be protecting that investment, and then I would make sure that when I had rain events, I was, watching the water levels and also clearing that spillway.
Governor, with the dock workers strike now begun for the last 12 plus hours here, is the state anticipating any sort of effects on the supply chain that could concern recovery and resources?
We have not categorized that, but of course there will be some impact. We don't know how long it's going to last. It just started, but there's nothing moving in and out of the port, is my understanding now. So it's at some point that will be certainly be an impact.
Has the state, or did the state do anything to prepare for this? Obviously knowing the state was coming, and is there any really workaround to ensure that supplies are still able to get here?
It's very difficult to work around a strike of the entire Atlantic and Gulf Coast. But it's been in the news and people are aware that it was coming, suppliers, shippers. You know, we've got a lot of logistics that flew from that port, and I'm confident that everyone that is involved in that on either end are aware of it and did whatever they could, but we cannot settle the strike between the carriers and the union.
You all mentioned some of the resources that we've sent to North Carolina. Do you anticipate sending any more resources over to North Carolina in the coming days or weeks?
If we don't need what we have, and they do, then certainly we'll send it. That's our rule is if we need something, we can't send it away to any place else. So that's why we have 2 of those 4 helicopter aquatic rescue teams. 2 of them have gone there.
So as of this moment, for now, those will be the only 2 things that are in North Carolina from South Carolina.
That's right.
Okay.
Now we have some troops deployed overseas, National Guard.
Governor, have you spoken to any of the larger grocers, the Walmarts, the Publix, even the Piggly Wigglies, to see what's being done to bring additional food to replace some of the stock that some of the stores have lost during the power outages?
I have not discussed that with them, no. But we've discussed a lot of things with a lot of people trying to get the power back on.
As far as the declaration that President Biden signed, I know some of the counties were left out of that. You said some of those counties are still reevaluating whether or not they can be a part of that declaration. When you think about like Richland County, who is in charge of making that assessment? Is that a FEMA?
All of the county officials, of course, they gather whatever information they can and send it in to us, and it will go to FEMA, and an evaluation is made. We've been fortunate over the years in getting these expedited declarations from the government, from the federal government, and I think we have built up some confidence when we send our information in, and so as soon as we have the information from the counties, as soon as we receive it, we send it in as quickly as we can, so they can make that determination.
Some of those counties don't have the employees or the manpower to do those assessments. Does the state step in and help with the assessments?
We try to whatever we can do to help or encourage, we do. But ultimately, that's a county officials. Normally, once they have a chance to assess things, and it takes a little time sometimes, then the process moves pretty quickly. And again, just getting the emergency declaration is a big step.
I know there are some counties that have had gas shortages. Is there any kind of update as far as what that looks like now, whether there have been trucks coming in able to re-up that supply?
Well, we know that the pipeline going through Belton and Spartanburg, we know they're working just fine, and Augusta was out and then was on momentarily, and I think maybe it's back on now. So coming in, we have very few stations that have no gas. The problem is if they don't have electricity, then if they've got a full tank below the ground, they can't pump it up. So that's Andrew, you want to answer that?
Yes, sir. Thank you, Governor. Yes, to follow up a little bit on what the governor was saying, when we talked with our contact at Colonial Pipeline, I don't think there is a shortage of gasoline itself. We did do some digging to figure out which gas stations actually are in operation. I have regions, the Columbia region, GSP, Aiken, Augusta, and the Savannah region, and it has a percentage as to which gas stations are closed. And for each of those 4 regions, at least based on the data we've got right now, the percentages are under 5% for each of those regions. So based on the data we have, there's gas, and most of the gas stations at this point in time are now open.
Two more questions to be allowed.
On the additional deaths that have been confirmed, can you say what those were a result of? Was it generators? Was it trees falling?
Yes, ma'am.
Rob Woods, DPS. Yes, sir, I will. The governor's already covered most of the circumstances. The overwhelming majority of those have been from fallen trees. So that's where we're seeing it. What I can do is give you the list of the counties. What we have done at DPS is work directly with the coroners in each county to verify the deaths themselves. They have the particulars involving each one of those deaths, but what the governor's already outlined is pretty much the sweep of what the cause of death are. But if you'd like me to, I can provide you with that information, and you can go back to the individual counties and get the specifics on those.
I see we have a rep from FEMA here today. Can we have any kind of update, or is there any kind of information as to where they are in their progress and what resources they're bringing to TMS South Carolina?
Good afternoon. I'm Brett Howard. I'm the Federal Coordinating Officer. We are currently in support of South Carolina and the governor's team here, as you've heard from all of them and the local responders that are out doing what it is they do. It is an enormous impact to this state. The great thing and the easy job FEMA's had has been helping and assisting the state. As all of us know, that disasters are all local. They're locally executed, they're state managed, and they're federally supported. And I stand here supporting the state of South Carolina with the full force of the federal government. We have been asked to bring in new SAR teams, and they're here. We found oxygen for public health and having it brought in. The most important thing was helping to expedite that declaration, to get the hard work out of the way. And Director Stinson's team, the governor's team, providing us the stuff we needed to expedite that major declaration helped speed up things. I know there's counties left out, and that's a big thing. But we went with what we had to get assistance to the survivors. We're here to support the state, and we're here for every survivor for this disaster. Currently, I think as of midday today, we've had over 64,000 registrations in the FEMA. So that needs to continue, because some of those issues that with private wells and things, there's assistance from us to help do that. We are currently going to have DSA, Disaster Survivor Assistance teams, out in the neighborhoods helping register. I think DRCs were mentioned. We're working with the state at their discretion of where those need to be set up. And like the governor said, the president told him whatever he wants. And I'm here to make sure that we can give him as much as he needs. And I don't think we've missed anything yet, Governor. I think we've answered the call on everything that the state has required, and we stand ready to bring in whatever else it takes. And I look forward to being here through all of this. We're not going anywhere. This isn't a 2-day. This isn't a week-long event like the governor said. This is a marathon. We're going to be here for a while to make sure the state recovers and we get through this response and we get South Carolina and upstate rebuilt. Thank you, Governor. Thank you.
Thank you very much. Thank you.
So there you have Governor McMaster along with other state leaders addressing the state on the situation following Hurricane Helene and the cleanup efforts that are underway. Just a few points that he touched on today. All hospitals have power restored in the areas that were impacted by the storm. 36 deaths have now been reported across the state of South Carolina due to that storm. 6 deaths in Aiken, Greenville, and Spartanburg County. Here in the Midlands, Newberry with 2, Saluda with 3, and Richland County with 1 death from that storm. Power outages statewide right now, more than 567,000 homes and businesses remain in the dark, but progress is being made. Dominion Energy reporting only 69,000 outages across the state. Mid-Carolina down to 12,500. Duke, a big number tonight, 367,000 outages. Newberry Electric with 6,700 outages. As far as gas shortages are concerned, you heard them right there a moment ago say there's plenty of gas out there. There's just a run on it in some areas People, for instance, from Augusta and Aiken making the drive to Lexington. People from Newberry also making the drive to nearby counties. And it's just caused a big backup at gas stations in some Midlands County. As far as that the port strike is concerned, the governor said the port strike will at some point impact South Carolina. And right now, as some supplies are limited in some South Carolina counties, we certainly don't need that at the moment. But he said at some point it will impact South Carolina, but probably not at this moment. As far as President Biden is concerned, he is expected to visit South and North Carolina tomorrow. No specific details have been released from the White House tonight. They are telling us, though, that the president is expected to take a helicopter tour of some of the hardest hit areas in western North Carolina. When pressed on that, the governor did not say whether or not he would be meeting with the president tomorrow as he gave that tour, meeting with local leaders. He says he's met the president many times before. He did say he's going to be in the upstate. He also said that perhaps that's something that we should be asking the White House about, whether or not the president plans to meet with the governor while he's here in South Carolina. Of course, we have lots of reports on this coming up tonight on Friends at 5. Team coverage for you all evening long. As always, you can stay up to date right now by going to our website. That's WLTX.com. We'll see you again coming up on Friends at 5.
So before we get started, I want to just take a brief moment on behalf of Richland County Council and County Administration to say to all of those who were affected by the storm that our support is certainly with you. For those of you who have experienced damage or even the loss of life, property, homes, we want to make sure that you know that Richland County will be doing what we need to do to make sure that you receive the service and the assistance that you need. With that being said, I also want to thank those men and women of Richland County who were on the scene from day one of the storm, those members of our Public Works Department, our Utilities Department, Ombudsman's Office, Richland County Sheriff's Department, as well as many other of our men and women who regularly serve all the time during disasters whenever they are present, as well as during normal operating hours. At no point in time did Richland County government close as an organization. We did close to the public briefly on Friday because we wanted to make sure that citizens did not come down to the county and put themselves in harm's way. There were many reports, weather-related, that said that people that did not have to travel should stay off of the roads. And we have seen in the past when individuals follow that information, more people are safe and more responders have less concerns about not being able to do their jobs because they're dealing with responding to citizens who put themselves in harm's way. Specifically, Richland County has responded to over 1,000 service requests that we've received during the storm. Richland County has been and will continue to actively provide emergency assistance to our residents and communities that we serve. And it's paramount that you understand that. I want to just take a moment and talk to you about the information that we hoped would be clarified this afternoon related to the emergency major disaster declaration. Earlier this morning, myself, as the county administrator, along with our emergency management director, as well as our communications director, was on the phone call beginning at 9:30 with the South Carolina Emergency Management Division. During this phone call, we sought clarity as to why Richland County was not included and that the information that was being communicated was because from reports that supposedly that there was something that we had not done. So we asked for clarity as to what did Richland County supposed to do that we had not done, what prohibited us from being included in the initial emergency disaster declaration. We were told that there are two different types of declarations. There's your traditional declaration and there's the emergency declaration that you heard about. And at that particular declaration, I'm going to give you close to a quote that we received from the Emergency Management Division. So bear with me. I'm going to tell you it's not word for word, but it is very close. So we were told this morning in our 9:30 meeting that the South Carolina Emergency Management Division, with information that they had directly at their fingertips through what they were described as an exception to the policy, which is what the emergency or the expedited disaster declaration is, for a handful of counties where we could see through either satellite images or through citizens taking pictures of damage of their homes and submitting it through the EMD app, and anecdotal information related to power outages, tree debris, and other related types of impacts, where we were able to collect that information without doing any of the damage assessment process, that they submitted that in a package because it was so comprehensive and overwhelming that those counties that were initially included could clearly see that they would meet the IA categories, and that Richland County did not neglect to do anything, that that process was independent of any work of the counties. And so we were concerned when we did not hear this afternoon that that clarity was provided, because we were told that at 2:30 there would be a briefing, and that the focus of that briefing would be to provide clarity on the process that was undertaken by SCEMD related to the expedited major disaster declaration. So I did not hear that clarity this afternoon that was provided. I did not hear it communicated that the process that was described to us this morning at 9:30 was also then shared with the public this afternoon. So I just want to take a moment and reemphasize that Richland County did not neglect to take any action. There was no pre-paperwork that Richland County was supposed to submit. This information was confirmed by SCEMD, and shortly after the press briefing was over this afternoon, all county emergency management personnel received an email from SCEMD, and it came out about 3:52 p.m., which was closely after the press conference. And in that information, it sought to provide clarity to counties concerning that. So I'll just read that for you briefly, assuming that you all don't have that. And it says, to provide to county directors, to provide additional information for you and for your leadership and residents, we want to provide information about the expedited federal major disaster declaration granted for South Carolina. The expedited is an initial step. More counties can and will be added as more damage assessment information is available. It says South Carolina's expedited major disaster declaration request was transmitted to FEMA on late Saturday, 9/28/2024, and was granted on 9/29. The initial declaration includes 13 counties for individual assistance and 12 for public assistance. The federal government approved assistance for fewer counties than requested. More counties can and will be requested once damage assessments are conducted. And I want to pause there just for a moment, because the traditional process, as we know, means that after a disaster happens, then those counties go through a process where they go and they do damage assessments. They drive the counties to figure out what areas have been impacted. They gather that information, they describe it, and then there's generally a number estimated that goes along with that. That is the traditional process that happens. So as I indicated earlier, as was described to us, that process did not happen as a part of the expedited major disaster declaration that was done, because that was done independent of any county's actions. So I think it's important to understand, because we are concerned that citizens may not be aware that we are working to go through the process that we traditionally go through to recover from a damage after a storm by going out and assessing that damage. If you recall, yesterday, the concern that was still out was what was going to happen with the rivers and whether or not the rivers were going to crest and create any flooding that we still need to be worried about. So our Emergency Operations Center, we're still in operations mode, responding to the current weather event that ultimately is still ongoing. After the operations phase concludes, then our team will begin the full damage assessment process. While we have preliminary information, again, that does not represent the comprehensive process that normally goes into the damage assessment that is ultimately submitted to the state. So just wanted to take a moment and provide clarity for our residents, for those who are concerned as to whether or not Richland County is doing what it needs to do. Yes, we are. There was no steps that we were to take before now. State Emergency Management communicated to us that they did not send out any information ahead of the expedited disaster declaration to any counties requesting any information, nor requiring any submittals. So again, that information is fresh to us as of 9:30 this morning when we called EMD to tell us why is the information out there that the county is not doing something that it should be doing. And we were told, you have not neglected to do anything, and that the actions that were taken were independent of Richland County and any other county. So with that being said, I'll close with a few other pieces of information that I think it's important for our residents to be aware of. Regardless of whether Richland County is ultimately included on the expedited major disaster declaration, the county will still utilize the normal disaster declaration process of submitting damage assessments information to SCEMD. We have already begun preliminary damage assessments to identify all damage in Richland County and will continue this process. We will continue to respond to calls for emergency service, gather damage assessment information, and submit all required data to SCEMD. Richland County residents may report damage and share photos by calling 803-576-3439 or emailing information and pictures to the ombudsman at richlandcountysc.gov. So we want to make sure our residents know that the information that you've heard that Richland County did not do something is not consistent with what we have been told nor what we have experienced. And still moving forward, we will move forward with continuing the damage assessment process. The last thing I'll share before I take questions is that when we asked or were told what could the county now do to be included in the expedited declaration process, it was described that we could do a window tour that would include county officials, state officials, and federal officials in around 2 or 3 vehicles driving to areas in Richland County where the major damage has occurred. And that during that process, while it's not an exact science, somewhere between 25 to 50 homes that have been destroyed, meaning that they are uninhabitable with damage to them, would have to be seen in order for the expedited process to potentially apply to Richland County. So again, this is information that we received today during our conference with SEMD. And so again, hopefully that provides clarity to individuals who are wondering what is going on and how can we move forward with potentially receiving assistance as a result of the disaster declaration that was put out. So with that being said, I'll take questions at this time.
So the governor mentioned the other day during his press conference that these counties that were on that list that was released on Monday that would be receiving assistance from FEMA, they submitted some sort of information to the state. So are you saying that's not necessarily the case with those counties?
I am saying that I can't speak on behalf of all counties, but I can tell you that I've spoken with counties that are on the list who do not have a disaster declaration at the county level in place, nor have they submitted forms or any pre-paperwork that was referenced to the SEMD.
And also, are there, I guess, a list of requirements that counties have to meet in order to get this assistance?
So the FEMA process, and I think they did talk about this a little bit, there is a threshold that the county ultimately has to meet in order to apply or to qualify and be eligible. So that happens after the damage assessment occurs. So this process, as was described to us, is that the expedited major disaster declaration is what you would almost look at, as was described to us, as an exception to the policy. And that because of there was so much information available to some counties where it was just, kind of, I guess, real easy to see that it was easy to include those counties. But other counties could still be included, but these counties just had really very visible high damage that could be easily used to start the process for the disaster declaration to be issued, and then other counties could be added on. So that's really the vehicle that was chosen. And you may ask, well, were you told why that vehicle was chosen? Based on the information we were told, is that they said the words that were used to us was, as of today, the disaster declaration and a request to the federal government related to Tropical Storm Debbie still has not been approved. And that there was a concern that that could happen here utilizing Helene, and that the state did not want that to happen, so they chose to use this vehicle called the expedited major disaster declaration. So that is what we were told, the difference between, again, more traditional and then the expedited process, which they were concerned would hinder the opportunity to get resources in the state if they did not take that approach. But that approach did not require activities from the counties. We were told that was independent of actions from the counties.
And I guess the big question from residents now is, can they expect to be added to this list for FEMA assistance?
So the process that normally goes on, that's what we're going to do. The operation phase concludes, damage assessments are being done, that damage assessment information then ultimately is sent, and then based off meeting the threshold for Richland County and based off the determination made by FEMA, that's when residents will be told, what Richland County qualifies for. So there is, the eligibility is there, but we can't tell you whether or not right now what specific categories that, we qualify for without that additional information. What other questions?
In this window tour with the state and federal officials, is there any plans at this point to take anyone around on on that, and what areas might y'all be looking at?
Yeah, so the information that we received during the call this morning, this was all new to us. So our initial concern was making sure that we could respond to the community to let them know that Richland County was in fact doing what it needed to do to be responsive to the impacts of the storm, and that citizens should not feel as though they would be left out because Richland County took some action. So the information that we received today was really secondary to our main focus at the time, because we've been spending a lot of time responding to this misinformation about Richland County not being included because of failing to do some paperwork, and it's really taken away from our efforts to move forward with the important work of the damage assessment process and the response process. So that is something that we learned today and that we will definitely try to take advantage of. But again, that is new information as of today. That is not information that we had before the meeting that we initiated this morning. What additional questions?
Do you guys have an initial damage assessment that you can provide to residents at this point about power outages, property damages, shelters, things of that nature that maybe they haven't gotten yet?
Yeah, so it's not that the residents wouldn't necessarily get that information. That information would flow up through the state process, but I do have Emergency Management Director Michael Bird here who can talk a little bit about how that process works. But the preliminary damage estimate would not be something that would really go to the citizens. It is something that would go up through the process, and I'll have Emergency Management Director Bird clarify that for you a little bit more. Director Bird?
Thank you, sir. Yes, as Administrator Brown indicated, it is a process, and we can take a disaster like this and break it down to simplistic three different phases. We have the emergency response phase, then we have the damage assessment phase, and then we have the recovery phase. And sometimes those overlap, and those are overlapping right now. We're still in the emergency response phase of this event, and we have started damage assessment based on the inquiries and the information that we've received from the public. We're in the process of putting together our our windshield assessment teams, but we will have to rely also on somebody from the state and somebody from FEMA accompanying us as we go through that process. At the height of this storm, we had over 190,000 people without power in Richland County, and that's from Dominion and several of the co-ops that serve Richland County. And we're making progress every day, and I think we're down to about 7,400 people that are still without power. And unfortunately, for those individuals, it may be several days before they are restored, their power is restored, because of the amount of damage to the large transmission lines. Once they get those up and running, then they're finding damage to the individual lines that may go to a house, and when they re-energize a circuit, they find those additional down lines, and even damage where the wires come into the home. So we're still responding to some of those events that are occurring now. So it's going to be several days probably before we do get out of the emergency response phase. As Mr. Brown indicated, the rivers are still above flood level, but they are receding, which is good. And some of those houses or dwellings that had to be, the occupants had to leave, they won't know what kind of damage they have until they get back in there and look at their property for that. Is there any other questions about the response or assessment?
Are the places set up for people in the county if they're still without power, water, so long that they can go to get assistance?
Yeah, if anyone has a request for assistance, please let us know at 803-576-3439. And we are trying to address those on an individual level. I know we've in several neighborhoods we've gotten water and food to those areas that have been without power for a number of days. Let me just say this before I turn it back over. We've been through this before, similar situations, and I want to let you know that Richland County will receive every bit of aid and assistance that we're entitled to. It's a process that we have to go through. It's not easy. Sometimes the rules change, but we will get there, and we will get everyone that's entitled to and eligible for assistance. We will get that for them. Thank you.
I want to take a moment, and I want to end with what's most important. Director Byrd hit the nail on the head. Residents of Richland County should feel confident that we will do everything that we're supposed to do, that we're doing everything that we're supposed to do to qualify, to be eligible for, and to be considered for assistance related to this storm. I also want residents to know that there was nothing that Richland County neglected to do, that the reason why we're having this communication to you right now directly after speaking with the South Carolina Emergency Management Division is because what we wanted to do was to bring clarity to the situation. We did not want to waste time and resources that should be focused on the betterment of our community and serving the residents of Richland County. So please be clear, Richland County administration, Richland County Council, Richland County staff have been since the beginning of the storm and will continue to be through the recovery of the storm at your side, working to serve you in the best possible way that we can. Thank you all very much for coming. Appreciate the opportunity to speak with you.